Good evening, Broncos country, and welcome to another installment of the Orange and Blue View podcast. I'm one of the hosts here, Ronald White. To my left, you'll see Thomas Hall. How are you doing, Thomas, on this lovely Saturday evening?
I'm doing pretty good. I've been traveling a lot, so I am actually, out in New England area, out in Patriots country, unfortunately, trying to, do these podcasts from different locations. So I'm not in my studio. It's a little bit difficult trying to do it this time from a hotel room. So I hope that everybody can hear me, and I hope the lighting's okay and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, it's been a great trip. It's fun. It's nice to get out here and see some different parts of the country and everything. But yeah, it's a little harder to jump into these podcasts and be as comfortable as I'd like. But it's still good. Other than the weather here has just been pouring rain today, so it's a little disappointing. But otherwise, I'm doing okay. How about you, Ron?
I'm doing well. Weather here in Atlanta, it's really hot. I think it's in the high 80s. It was in the high 80s today, so
Nice,
enjoyed
nice.
enjoyed some nice time outside. It was great. So let's get into the chat here. We got folks coming in here. Got Kevin Gray. Thank you, Kevin, for your comment here. We appreciate you. Says evening Broncos country. Thomas and Ron, Big Mile High salute. Not much news today. Denver Broncos for life. MHH for life. Yes. So yeah, Kevin, there's not much as of today that was broke, but this week there have been some comments. There's been some tidbits of news that have come out of the valley that we'll dive into for sure. Especially what Justin Simmons said here shortly. And then we got Dylan Von Arts coming in here. Thank you, Dylan, one of our staffers here. We appreciate you. He says, "Sup, Broncos country. Make sure you hit that like button on the way in. Share on all platforms and subscribe if you haven't already. Yes,
Good
if
advice.
you don't do those, if you don't do nothing else, please make sure you do those three things. We will always appreciate you guys for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. So you can get the alerts for the most part. If you want to watch the show, it gives you an alert. So subscribe, and then you'll know when we come on. So we really appreciate
Sure.
if you do support the show and follow and whatnot. So thank you very much. Thanks, Dylan, for being here. Really appreciate it.
Yes, most definitely. And we got Todd Ossendorf coming in here. Thank you, Todd. He says, "Hello, Thomas, Ron, Dylan, Scott, and Broncos Country. DB for life." That's right. Denver Broncos for life. Thank you, Todd. We appreciate you. And we got Mike S. Um, Mike S says, "What's up, Thomas, Ron, Scott, Dylan, and Broncos Country?" Well, what's up with you, Mike? How are you doing today? Doing well here. Doing well.
Yeah, thanks for
Um,
being here, Mike.
yeah,
Appreciate it.
thank you. And then we got David McGrath coming in here. Thank you. Says, "Good evening, Broncos country. Hashtag Buckham times two." Yes. Hashtag MHH for life. I love this Buckham now.
Yeah,
It's one of
it's
these
growing
sketchy
on
things.
me.
It's growing on me. It took a little while, but I'm like, I can actually get with it now. Sean Payton's kind of persuaded me that I think Buckham's the way to go. So
Well, and two, there's still a lot of doubters out there. There's still a lot of
yeah.
people that are, trying to bash on Russell Wilson. So it's starting to really fit this Broncos team coming up, right? Like, who
Yes.
cares what you all think? We are going to go out there and we're going to do what we need to do to win, and that's showing up in training, offensive or organized team activities. Is showing up in their attitude. It's a
Yeah.
lot different. So Buckham really fits. It's starting to really fit, and I'm starting to like it. I'm starting to really like it.
Yeah, it really speaks to the dynamic and the approach of
Absolutely.
how Sean Payton is using this offseason. Right? Again, there's not too much media kind of being influenced here, but there's just enough. So we kind of get to see what's going on, of course, with OTAs, but he's keeping them focused,
Yep.
keeping them on the field and making sure that, the team can be the best that they can be in this
Yep.
coming season. And that's all we could ask for. So
And that's the thing too. We can sit here and talk about the talent of the players, and
mhm,
there's always teams that are talented that can't put it all together on the field, and there's
mhm,
teams that aren't as talented that can.
right.
And I think that Sean Payton is going to be able to put, even we can talk about the talent, but I think he's going to be able to mold them into something better than the talent may suggest, based on what I'm seeing so far and based on what he's done in the past, right? It's not just this new person coming in. So it is exciting. And when you get to watch a little bit of the OTAs and when training camp starts, you're going to start to see that. And I think people are going to start to have a little bit more enthusiasm going forward than they are right now because of what he brings. Because so far it's been all business. It's been all implementing what needs to be implemented the right way. So I'm getting excited, and I keep saying I want cautious optimism, but it's hard not to get excited about this upcoming Broncos season from what we're seeing so far.
Yeah. You go ahead.
I was going to say, and that kind of brings us to the comments that we were going to talk about tonight, right? There's comments out there about, the enthusiasm for familiar face, right?
Yes.
That we all are kind of, I don't know, but so it's interesting.
Yes. And speaking of that optimism and those comments, so this week, I think it was either yesterday or Thursday, All-Pro safety Justin Simmons made headlines in his comments about former Broncos head coach and now defensive coordinator Vance Joseph. And I just want to kind of take kind of quote here what he mentioned as far as how he's feeling about the defense, how Justin Simmons that is feeling about the defense, about Vance Joseph, and about how it's different now compared to what it was when he was the head coach. So he says, yeah. I think the biggest difference is he was a head coach. Back then, there wasn't as much dialogue. Obviously, he was with the defense, but he couldn't be too hands-on as much as you want to be, just because there's many more things that you have to take care of. And then he goes on to say that I feel like I've talked to him now more in the past few weeks than I really had the opportunity to when he was the head coach, just because now he's in the meeting rooms more. He's able to coach the little things up, and we're talking formations, this, that, and the other. So that's pretty much the main difference. He seems the same guy that I remember him to be. I loved him when he was here as head coach, so I'm really thankful that we got him again. And that's encouraging, and that's nice to hear, just because he's right in the fact that in his previous stint, of course, he was the head coach, so Vance Joseph was responsible for the entire team. So there were times where he couldn't really focus on the defense, his calling card, as much as he wanted to. Whereas though now, with the talent that he has, and obviously some of that same talent that he once coached, i.e. Justin Simmons, with this talent on defense, he's able to go into these meeting rooms, some of these OTA practices, and coach up the defense. Like, look at different plays, look at different formations. I'm pretty sure Sean Payton is in there as well in these meeting rooms, giving him some advice on what to look for. So you can be encouraged and very optimistic, Broncos country, that I know we're a little hesitant on Vance Joseph coming back. I had my reservations as well. I'm one of them. But, based on what Justin Simmons said, I feel a little better, just because looks like there's more focus on detail. And I think that that's going to help this team in the long run.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, people seem to be excited about it. I just want to, before I go jump into that, I just want to say hi to the Vermonter for saying rep at Broncos in New England. Yep, thank you for doing that. Divine Breaks came in. We appreciate you guys jumping on here. But yeah, I mean, it does. Justin Simmons coming out and saying these things does help a little kind of quell that doubt in my mind, so to speak, right? Like, we watched Vance Joseph. We can't sugarcoat it. We can't. Vance Joseph was terrible as the head coach. He just was. And he's been okay as a defensive coordinator. But to have some of the people that played for him when he wasn't doing well with the Broncos and kind of singing his praises a little bit does kind of help. It helps remove a little bit of that doubt that I have. I still have doubt in my mind about Vance Joseph as a coach, even a defensive coordinator. So, it's good to hear. I'll have to say it's good to hear, but I still need to see more happen on the field. Now, when he was in Arizona recently, I think he was kind of depleted of talent. So hopefully there's more talent on this team and he'll be able to get more out of him. But I'm still going to be hesitant. I don't care how much the players talk about how great he is now or whatever they say. I've got to see it happen on the field. I just have to, it's just, there's too much doubt in my mind about Vance Joseph at the moment to be excited about what he's bringing to the table.
Yeah, I definitely get that. And then I want to get to a few folks here before I respond here. Divine Breaks comes in here. Thank you, Divine. He says, yay, great to see you both on again. Well, thanks, Divine. I know you were there last week.
Sorry. Yeah, Memorial Day got in the way. I couldn't podcast from a tent. I was out in a tent and we just had to cancel just to let everybody get a break. Yeah. But yeah, thanks, Divine. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Divine. It's good to see you as well. Thank you for hopping in the chat. We appreciate you. Then we got Ernie. Big Ernie. Here. Thank you, Ernie. We appreciate you as always. He says, hello, Thomas and Ron. Go Broncos country only. Yes. I like the last word there. Only. Yeah. That's all that matters, right? So thank you for coming in, Ernie. We appreciate you. And yeah, Thomas, it's more of a wait and see for me. I like what Justin Simmons says. I'm a little bit more encouraged, but we just have to see it come out on the field. And in a way, Vance Joseph has no excuse given the talent on this team, Thomas. Now, I know we can get into some of the concerns which we've talked about in the past. We know edge is still a big thing, defensive line depth, right? So we definitely know that there are some depth issues in that regard. Yeah. But secondary, the linebacking core, which is solid for the most part, inside linebacker. There are enough good pieces on this team to kind of stay right there be a top 5, top 10 defense. So, I think, again, with what Justin Simmons says, if he's in these meeting rooms, if he's looking at formations, past film, talking to Sean Payton, I think that would lead me to believe that, the players are keyed in and, listening to what he has to say and trying to make this defense all it can be. So.
Well, I'll just say this right out the start. We can talk about the talent, whatever, but the Broncos have stars level talent at almost every level of the defense. So you look at the defensive line, DJ Jones, that guy is a stud. Yep. You got Randy Gregory on the edge. You've got Patrick Surtain in the secondary. You've got Justin Simmons at safety. Those are elite level talents. Now, I'm not going to jump on I love Josie Jewell. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't say he's elite at any, but he's a good player. Mm-hmm. So there's a little bit of lacking in the linebacker crew, but there's some really good talent on this team. And if he can't get the most out of them, that's a problem. I mean, health is going to be a concern. Hopefully that doesn't happen that we have seen the last couple of years, but he's got talent. He's got talent and he's got young talent to mold.
Yes.
Baron Browning, right? Young talent that he can mold and get more out of. You got Drew Sanders coming in as a rookie with loads of talent and a lot of upside, in my opinion. You've also got Damari Mathis out there. If he can't bring those players up and make them better, then he's gonna be a one and done defensive coordinator in my mind. So I think he's got the talent to do it. Now, I'm not saying that this defense is like talented all across the board and they're going to be all stars or anything like that, but he's got talent to work with and he can't mess it up this year. I mean, he's got to come through or he's going to be looking for a new job, in my opinion.
Yep. Agreed.
I'm just going to grab a couple more comments. We got Greg Smith coming in saying, good evening, Broncos country. Thanks for being here, Greg. We got Keith Brugman coming in. We got a lot of the people that we're so used to seeing. So thank you for coming in, Keith, Thomas and Ron. So great to see you both. Carol is coming in saying, good evening, Broncos country. Hope you're doing well. We got Dominique Martin coming in. Hey, Broncos family, orange and blue view. Shout out to the entire Mile High Huddle team, Broncos for life. Thank you, Dominic.
Thank you, Dominic.
And that's true. Like the entire Mile High Huddle team has a ton of different perspectives. Mm-hmm. Watch them all and, get a new perspective from each of them. So I appreciate that shout out. We got Jason O'Neill also coming in saying, good evening, Thomas, Ron, Dylan, Scott. I trust Broncos country is well and living the dream. Buck 'em. And then, of course, we have, the legend, Michael Ronquillo coming in. Good evening, Thomas Hall and Ron White. I'm Orange and Blue View. Go Broncos and Buckham. Always, Michael, thank you so much.
Thank you,
You always
Michael.
give us the most support, and we really, really appreciate it.
Yes.
Now we've got Phil McLaughlin, another legend, coming in saying, evening, Thomas and Ron. So with a great question, right? So the 5 worst coaches in Broncos history, in my opinion: Phil Check, Faulkner, Speedy, Hackett, and McDaniels. Your opinions. Buckham, Mile High Huddle for life. Yeah, that's a bad list. That really is a poor list. And from my perspective, I've talked about this before, actually, on Twitter, and the 2 worst coaches in my mind really are Hackett and McDaniels.
Yes.
McDaniels, not so much for the X's and O's, but what he did to the Broncos organization. He came in with his ego and absolutely destroyed the organization. They were not a bad team. They were on the cusp maybe of taking that next step with some of the players. He just came in and destroyed it all. And it led to something great, obviously. It led to, John Fox coming in and then Kubiak, whatever. But from that perspective, he's the worst coach in my mind, regardless of how many wins or losses, the percentage or whatever. This Hackett is right up there because he was just inept. Not a bad guy. He just couldn't do the job. And he had talent. They traded everything for Russell Wilson, and he still just flat out failed. I give these other guys a break from the olden days. Faulkner, Speedy, they just had no talent. Back then, the Broncos drafted several Hall of Famers that never played for the team, right? They just couldn't get those players on the field, so they didn't have the talent. So I give them a little bit of a break. They're bad. Hackett was just completely inept.
Yeah, thank you, Phil, for your comment. And Phil Check, Faulkner, Speedy, I'm vaguely familiar with those 3. That was a little bit before my time, but I did hear that, yeah, the talent level that they had kind of wasn't there. So, I mean, that kind of plays into that role. But definitely, I'm with you, Thomas. Hackett and McDaniels for sure. And I think I agree with the ranking. McDaniels, what he did, it just torpedoed everything. It definitely it definitely really hurt Broncos country. And yeah, Hackett, the incompetence. You had the talent on the Broncos roster. You just you couldn't do your job. You didn't know where to go. A lot of these games you were in over your head. Even trying to run an offense to even fit Russell Wilson. Luckily, we had the defense, but we didn't go anywhere, right? And so it was just a disaster from the jump. So, Phil, I definitely agree. But the top of my list would definitely be Hackett and McDaniels.
Yeah. And Speedy, actually, Hall of Fame player, not a good coach, but ended up staying with the organization, scout for a while. And so I kind of give him a little bit of a pass. But if you look at their wins and losses, they were just bad. But like I said, the talent in the 60s for the Broncos just wasn't there. They couldn't do. I mean, there's only so far you can go with good coaching. You have to have the talent, and they just didn't have it. I mean, I remember, looking back, researching some of the players from the early 60s, there was maybe 3. You could point to maybe 3 star players back then, and the rest was, they were just people that they brought in. In fact, I talked about one of them came in. He was working at a gas station and happened to get a tryout and ended up playing football for the Broncos. So, I give him a little bit of a pass. Wins and losses, they were bad, but for my money, Josh McDaniels is the worst coach in Broncos history just because how bad he just came in and destroyed it.
Yes, definitely. And then we got Gary Palmer coming in, the legend. Thank you, Gary. We appreciate you as always, he says. Hi, Thomas, Ron, Scott, and Dylan. Go Broncos. #Buckham. Again, thank you, Gary, for your comment. We always in your chat. We appreciate you. And I want to get to a few comments here I see in the screen. I think there was one from Keith. Yeah, this one here. And this is a great point, Keith. Thank you here. He says, Sean Payton made Teddy Bridgewater and Jameis Winston look good. And you're right on the money, Keith. And that's the other part of the reason why I love Sean Payton. Granted, one part is what he's able to do with an entire offense, right? Get players in position to make plays, the schematics. That's why I love him as a head coach. But being that quote unquote quarterback whisperer and helping Teddy Bridgewater and Jameis Winston, as you saw in those years with the Saints, they were still competitive. Granted, they weren't world beaters or anything. They weren't going to go out and beat the top teams as you would think, but they were still in games just because, what he was able to do with these quarterbacks. And we saw when Jameis Winston was in Tampa Bay versus what Jameis Winston looked like under the tutelage of Sean Payton in New Orleans. It was like a night and day difference. And I think with the Teddy Bridgewater, I think he went on a 5-0 run. So that's a good point, Keith, of another reason you should feel encouraged, not only with the schematics of Sean Payton, but he can make average quarterbacks, above average and play at a good to elite level.
And I would just like to say that the more encouraging thing to me isn't that he made these quarterbacks look good. He took 3 different quarterbacks, very different in style, and made them better. So you took Drew Brees, made him into a Hall of Fame quarterback. He made Teddy Bridgewater, who's different than Jameis Winston, made him. I mean, he got him, that huge contract for Carolina, and then he took Jameis Winston and was able to mold him into a different player. And he got hurt, so you never really saw what he could become. I think he could have been a pretty good quarterback under Sean Payton, but that's what's encouraging me because, a lot of people think about Drew Brees and what he did for Drew Brees, and then they're thinking, oh, well, he's going to try and make Russell Wilson into Drew Brees and blah, blah, blah. No, he took different quarterbacks, different styles, different way of playing, and he made them better. So you look at what he can do for Russell Wilson right now and look at what, and evaluate what he does well and make Russell Wilson better because he has that experience of helping different styles, right? That's what's encouraging to me. It's not just that he made, average quarterbacks look better. He made different average quarterbacks look much better.
Yep.
That's what I like. And we got David McIlrath coming in Sean Payton we trust with the super. Thank you so much, Denver Broncos for life. Yeah, we have to trust that Sean Payton can really mold these people into better players, and not just mold the players into being, better on the field, but have them working together as a team in a better manner. That's what he's going to do. And that's why we have to kind of trust the process. So far, the process to me has looked really good. He seems to be doing the right things, making the right moves, saying the right things. And so far they look like the feel of it's better, I guess. And we're going to see more in training camp, but I'm encouraged.
Yes. And thank you, David, for your comment. And how can you not be encouraged? Right, based on what has transpired so far, he's again in OTAs. He's done a good job with making sure the players stay focused, stay with their assignments. I know he mentioned about Greg Dulcich, kind of being that joker.
Yeah.
So him putting players in position to win. That I know we said it before, but I think with veteran leadership now at the forefront, we're a little bit more encouraged than we once were. So again, we'll see what happens. And Keith brings up a good point here, and that's further in the quotes as well. Thank you, Keith, for jumping in with the additions. He said, Justin Simmons on Sean Payton's practices, in one word, educational. How can you not love that Broncos country? Yes. And that was very intriguing, Keith, that portion of educational. Because based on what Justin Simmons says, it's, I don't think we got this before in the sense that he's going to show you he wants something done and tell you why. Give you that reason as to why he's running this play, why he's putting you in this position, what he expects out of you as a result of this play. So I would bet you my last dollar Hacken didn't do any of that, right? So the fact that he's coming in with that approach, that strategy to ensure crisp execution can't be can help this team a lot. So
yeah, and I'll jump on that. It's not just going out and practicing; it's making sure you practice it right. So he's been known to stop a play
yep,
if it's done wrong, and make sure it's done right. You don't just practice the wrong way just for the sake of practicing. He's very, very
meticulous.
Pointed in what he's doing. It's trying to make sure that you're out there doing it right before you move on to the next play. So there's a lot to consider when it comes to what Sean Payton, his approach, his style. People maybe not liking it so much that he's not talking about it so much, but the people that are there, that are watching, the people that are in the know, see how he's making sure the perfection comes out in the practice field, right? That's the big thing.
Yep.
Got Leroy. Oh, sorry. Did you grab a comment there? Sorry, Ron, you grabbing a...
Yeah, I wanted to just grab Phil here really quickly. Yeah. Thank you, Phil, as always. He says, I am sorry, but VJ has to show me before I believe it. And absolutely. Phil, you're absolutely right on the money. Again, saying all the right things, but I need to see it out on the field. I need to see it out in the wash, as Chad Jensen likes to say. And we'll see that, when the season starts. We'll see, what formations, what plays, how he has these players in position, what plays he calls, things of that nature. So again, we just have to see it to believe it. I'm going to go back on, my train of he has more than enough talent to make this work.
Yep, absolutely.
So, he has to just get it done.
I'm going to give a shout out to Michaela for being here. Thank you, Michaela, saying good evening, Broncos country. Appreciate you being here. As always, Michaela, you're a big supporter of all the Mile High Huddle shows. I'm going to grab Leroy Williams, sorry, asking us a question coming in from Facebook. We really appreciate it. Leroy, thanks for being here. Mile High salute, guys. Do you think the Broncos are fine at running back, or should they bring in another veteran? Me, I want to give Zeke a chance to shine in this offense. What do you guys think? Ron, why don't you jump in there and see? I want to know what you have to say about this. I'll jump in there after.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Leroy, for your question. This is a good question. Thank you again. So I'm still under the belief that I don't think the Broncos are quite set at running back. We've seen the footage of Javonte. Again, it looks it's just OTAs, right? It looks okay, okay, we're happy, but we don't know until he really starts to take on, that contact. So, and of course there's P. Ryan there as well. So I would say maybe bringing in another running back would be okay, but I'm not going to go out there and spend high dollar on a running back. And your comment here about Zeke's going to command some money. And as good as Zeke is, I know he's probably not what he once was when he came out of Ohio State, but he's still above average running back for sure. I wouldn't spend any money on Zeke. Maybe someone on the mid to lower tiers coming in, but definitely not Zeke. But I would say, from a running back position, I would say maybe adding one more lower tier veteran wouldn't hurt.
Here's my thoughts on it, right? The Broncos don't seem to be too frantic when it comes to the running back position, right? They didn't go after anybody really, P. Ryan, right away. But other than that, they've been pretty content with just grabbing a few people that, Tony Jones that they're a little bit familiar with, some undrafted folks. They brought in somebody from the XFL. They have not been frantically trying to bring in a running back. So it tells me two things, right? It tells me, number one, even though I still doubt it, even though we're seeing it and they're talking about it, it tells me that Javonte Williams is actually farther along than I think he is. Yeah. They actually believe that he can contribute earlier in the year when I thought he probably wasn't going to play until much later in the year. So that's one thing. And two, they're not bringing anybody in because they think they've got what they need. They feel like, it seems like, because the rumors were that they were clearing money for Dalvin Cook, right? They're clearing money for Dalvin Cook. Here it is, June 1st, it's come and gone. Nothing's been happening. No big waves. I just feel like they're content, right? So they're not going to go out and bring in Zeke or anybody else for that matter. They just cut 2 running backs and they didn't bring another one in to make room for somebody else. So I really think that Sean Payton is content with the running back room that they have. And I don't see any moves unless there's some injuries or something else happens where they can get a cheap, option on a really good player. Like maybe Dalvin Cook's willing to take a little bit of less of a money to come here, or maybe Zeke. But to me, it's screaming that they are content to have Pirine start the season, have the backups the way they are, and wait for Javonte Williams to be fully ready to come in and play. Now, it would be fun to watch Ezekiel Elliott play in this offense. I think it would be really cool. I just think he probably wants too much money and they're not willing to do it. And down the road, if somebody does get injured or say Javonte Williams has a setback, this may change, right? This may change. But if they were going to make some moves, I feel like they would have made them already. So I think they're happy with what they have. And I actually think Piran's going to be a lot better than people think. He's got the skill and he just needs the shot. And I think they're going to give it to him.
Yeah. And I agree mostly. I think, obviously they think they're set. It's just a matter of, again, we don't know. Again, Javonte Williams looks good. And from what they have done, that they haven't signed anyone else. So, they're content with just going into the season with Javonte and Pirine. I'm just under the impression of thinking maybe if Javonte is not 100%, and then heaven forbid there's an injury to Pirine, what do you have, right? I mean, you still have those others on the roster, but again, you don't have that veteran. So that's why I was saying there may not be done, and there's still some time they maybe can sign someone else, bring in a veteran at a later point, but that's just kind of where my mind is. But we'll see. Again, we have to trust in Payton, and
I will just comment, Leroy. I've been worried about the running back position for a while, and I've been talking about it. I said that's one of those positions that they need to kind of address that they haven't really. So, but it was all in my mind thinking that Javonte Williams is going to be around for a long time, but everything points that he is. So I don't know, but the thing about the running back position is oftentimes they can sign somebody a little bit later that's still pretty good, right? Yeah. Obviously, Ezekiel, it's still sitting there waiting to be signed. So there's players out there that if an injury happens in training camp or into preseason, they'll go out and get somebody. May not be the star that everybody wants, but somebody serviceable enough to carry load. We saw what happened with Latavius Murray last year, right? He came in the middle of the season to play for the Broncos and ended up being one of the best offensive players on the team, came in late and nobody expected it. So there is some options, but I do think you're right. There is a little bit of still concern, but I think that's coming from people like me and other people in the media. It's not really coming from inside the Broncos organization. They seem content. Yep. So that's where I'm kind of going with it. I don't think they care. I don't think they're really worried about that position. I think they're ready to go as is. Now it could change. I mean, like I said, Dalvin Cook might get cut and they may say, hey, we're he's too good to pass up. But at this point, they seem very content.
Yep. Yeah, we will see what happens with the running back, how it unfolds out. So
yeah. We got Phil McLaughlin coming back in with another question about the tight ends, right? And he says, you guys think Trotman will be the second string tight end? Absolutely. Yeah, I think they traded for him with the intent of having him as the second string guy. And they did it during the draft after they realized that they couldn't get their guy, right? The guy that they wanted didn't fall to them where they needed it to fall. And they passed up some others kind of later round picks to get somebody that they're familiar with, that they know what he can do. And I think he's absolutely going to be the second string tight end. I think they're going to do a little, some 2 tight end sets. It's going to be him and Dulcich. And, I think Manhertz is going to be really the third. And that kind of, to me, leaves Alberto on the outside looking in, right? I don't know if they have big plans for Alberto. And I'm surprised that they haven't tried to, kind of package him and maybe KJ Hamler up in some sort of deal. And maybe it's because, they can't get anything. Maybe they've tried, but yeah, it just seems like it's Dulcich, Troutman, and Manhertz. And then, after that, it's like, we don't know. Like, we just don't know what's coming up. So I'm not sure in your feelings on that, Ron, but I definitely think he's number 2. I think Dulcich is the starter, and Troutman's going to be that reliable guy that they know about.
Yeah, I agree 100%, Thomas. Troutman was brought in to be at minimum second string. So it's going to be, you'll see a lot of sets where Dulcich and Troutman on those 2 tight end sets. I think Manhertz is more, he'll be the third option. I think he's been brought in more so for blocking. You may see him at times in some of the 2 tight end sets that Sean Payton runs, but definitely Dulcich and Troutman will be out on the field a lot. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I just want to jump back into this. Sorry, I hope we answered your question, Phil. I'm going to jump back into this. We're talking about the running back again. Leroy comes back in, so it says if P. Ryan gets hurt, Javonte not ready. Who's the guy to go after P. Ryan? I think that Sean Payton is taking a chance on Tony Jones, Jr. Right? I think they brought him in because they're taking a chance on him. Yeah, it doesn't seem like they're too. I guess I'm worried about it too, Leroy. I'm not trying to say that you're concerned about it's not valid, because I was concerned. I've been concerned, and you're right. If somebody gets hurt, they're in a little bit of trouble. But I think they kind of like Tony Jones Jr. and the reason why I say that is because they cut the other kind of bruising back that they brought in as a trial. Yep. The other guy that I thought may give Tony Jones Jr. a run for his money, for that kind of second guy off the field if Javonte Williams isn't ready to go, but they cut him. So it just feels like they're hoping that everybody stays healthy and Javonte returns. But in any situation, if somebody gets hurt and they're going to have to kind of struggle to find that next guy up. And Phil McLaughlin's coming in here too, saying I think there's a good possibility McLaughlin could be a sleeper. He might be the next Philip Lindsay. Yeah, and there's a lot of talk about McLaughlin. I think he's a great change of pace back, but like that second guy off, the second guy onto the field, the bruising back that kind of is more that 1-2 punch, and then you got your McLaughlin to come in as that kind of counter punch. I think that everything's pointing to that they seem like they're content, and it is concerning. And it was really concerning to me when I was looking at the defensive line and they're relying on these young guys to be the rotational guys, and there's no real experienced rotational guy. I was like, why aren't they addressing that? But sometimes, they're content to do certain things, and we're just, kind of on the outside looking in, not privy to all the information that's going on. But I like McLaughlin. From what I've heard and from what I've seen, he's actually a pretty solid running back for what they got him for, kind of thing.
Yeah, going back to Leroy's comment, and that's kind of what I said, Leroy, because if Javonte is not ready and P. Ryan, who they have to go to now. I agree with Thomas. It's going to be Jones Jr. just because there's familiarity with Sean Payton, and then there's really no one else after Jones Jr. that can really take on those starter snaps. You got Demario Crockett, but to Phil's point, it would be nice. Let's see what McLaughlin can do. Now, I have seen some film of him, and he is a great running back. He's a good choice, and I can definitely see some Philip Lindsay tendencies with him as he's on the field. So it'll be interesting to see if he does come in for a set of plays. But I think we just kind of have to trust the Broncos. And as Thomas mentioned, I think if they were really concerned about running back, they would have signed someone else by now. But based on what we've seen in OTAs and the progress that Javonte has made, because it was really all dependent upon the status of Javonte Williams. I think that's why a lot of us were concerned. And now that we see him out on the field looking, looking good, I think that kind of, lessens the concern for us moving forward. But, again, if there's an injury that breaks out in camp, all things change. So
yeah. And Gary Palmer, of course, coming with a great comment, like always. Gary, thanks for
Gary.
dropping in here and dropping that. He says, I'm thinking they're waiting for the drops from training camps. Like who falls out, who's not in the plans.
Yep.
That's a solid backup that somebody may have drafted a running back, and they're just like, we don't need this veteran, so we're gonna let him go test see if he can grab another job somewhere else. That does happen quite often, and so I can see that happening. But again, like you said, Ron, the biggest concern is whether or not Javonte Williams is healthy. And we've all had skepticism about it this entire time for good reason. I mean, there's studies out there that show that that's a valid concern. But he seems like he's much farther along than we think. So I think the Broncos are just preparing for him to be on the field, which is strange to say. But if somebody gets injured, it's, injuries happen, and it really, can put a bind on the Broncos, especially someone else made a comment, I think it was Mike S. said that, Russell Wilson needs that running game. So we've got to watch them really, really focus on the run a lot to help him out. But, it's all the moves that they aren't making that keeps pointing to me thinking that Javonte Williams is really almost ready to go. And if he is, we wouldn't be having this conversation, right? Wow. If Javonte Williams is cleared and ready to play and healthy, nobody's concerned about the running back position at this point.
Right. Agreed. And we got Phil McLaughlin coming in here again. Thank you, Phil. We appreciate you as always. He says, okay, guys, I don't want to hog the pod. It's okay. So one last question. If Cushenberry gets hurt or is not performing, does Forsyth get a start? No. Hashtag great show, guys. I'll let you go, Thomas.
No, I mean, they brought Kyle Fuller in to be the backup. Yeah. I mean, unless Forsyth totally blows them away in training camp and they don't need Kyle Fuller and they're like, this guy's great, then yes. But in my opinion, it's Kyle Fuller. He was brought in to be the backup to Cushenberry. If Cushenberry gets hurt or really stumbles out of the gate, they're going to put him in there. He's going to be that swing guy that's really the main backup that comes in. And you have to also consider it's not just because they signed Fuller. If you look back at Sean Payton, he's only started rookies for the most part in his career. He's done it 2 times, and one of them was out of complete necessity, right? They had signed Olin Kreutz to come in and be the guy. He got hurt. The other guy wasn't ready to go, and their rookie actually beat him out. But he was an old rookie that had he was technically a rookie, but he wasn't. He had bounced around practice squads for a while and got quite a bit of experience in the NFL, and he ended up getting the start, Brian De La Puente. But they did, and then later they drafted Eric McCoy much later, down the road, and he got the start as a rookie. But he was he was kind of a planned start. He was a little bit higher pick, but than Forsyth was. So I don't see him getting the start. I do like Forsyth, though. I think he's kind of got a future down the road. I think he needs a little bit of development and a little bit of time in the NFL to become that. And I don't want to have anything negative against him. I think he seems like a pretty good player. I just think they have the two centers in mind already.
Yes, thank you, Phil, again, and I agree, Thomas. It's going to be Kyle Fuller. If Kush gets hurt, they brought him in for a reason. He has familiarity with Russell Wilson. He's a veteran compared to Forsyth. We just drafted Forsyth, and Forsyth just has to develop. It'll be interesting to see his development moving forward. Hopefully, turning into that stable and starting center that we want, because I say that if Cushenberry doesn't perform as he should. Now, I know we all have our reservations, our doubts on Cushenberry, but we are hoping and praying that Cushenberry can perform to an above average level at center. Yeah. That's what we all want, because Forsyth is promising, and I've liked the tape on him at Oregon, but again, he's a rookie, and we just don't know we're going to get quite yet. So, if Cush gets hurt, it's going to be Kyle Fuller.
And it's not easy to start as a rookie. I mean, Cushenberry did it. There's been some that have, but calling out the line calls and doing whatnot, it's not as easy to start as a center. So I think they're okay. I'm worried about Cushenberry, but they like him. I think they're going to try and make something out of him, and things. Hopefully he responds well to that. I'm just going to grab one quick comment here that I saw coming in from DJ Capo, talking about Tony Jones Jr. He really likes him. He said what Sean did with Tony doing before he left. Watch what happens when it starts season. DJ's a proponent of Tony Jones Jr. Thinks he's going to surprise some people. So thank you for coming in, DJ. Really appreciate that insight. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, DJ. And I think we're all looking forward to seeing what happens. When Tony Jones Jr. is out in the field. I did see some tape of him, and he is good. What Sean Payton did with him before he left, it was very fun to watch. So now that coming to Denver, let's see how that unfolds.
Might surprise some people. I'm gonna grab Michael here. Of course, the legend Michael Ronquillo coming in saying, "Great show tonight, Thomas Hall and Ron White, Orange and Blue View, go Broncos and Buckham." And he also jumps back in here to give another comment, as always, with providing the support for our show, which we really appreciate with Facebook stars. So he's saying, "Thank you for showing Broncos country the love of the Denver Broncos organization. Go Broncos and Buckham." Yeah, it's all love for the Denver Broncos coming from us. I mean, we'll definitely give you our honest opinion, and if we think they're not doing the right thing, we're going to tell you. But in our hearts, we want the Broncos to do well, and we're tired of seeing this losing. So thank you, Michael. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael. We always appreciate you. I want to grab one in here from Jason O'Neill. Thank you, Jason. This is a really good point. He says, "What I'm most excited about is to see a new thought process that keeps opponents guessing. A team that is more innovative, and I'm excited to see what Sean has, in mind for Russell Wilson." Yes, I definitely agree with you 100%, Jason. It's keeping that defense, keeping that opposing team guessing what you're going to run on offense. And Sean Payton's the brightest of NFL minds out there. So we have no doubt with his schemes and his play calling what he's going to do. Now, we all know that, or we all expect, I should say, for it to be a heavy emphasis on the running game. But it's going to be, a lot of throwing as well. It'll be more balanced, I think, than we think. But just these schemes and designs of running plays and kind of how all that's put together, and then keeping the defense on their toes with the play designs he calls. It kind of like what Shanahan does. I kind of go back to the Kyle Shanahan. I'm a big fan of Kyle Shanahan and how he runs the 49ers offense of, kind of keeping the defense guessing, but lots of these plays are through the running game because we know Kyle Shanahan is a big proponent of the running game. So I can see something similar to the Sean Payton offense of a lot of things sprouted through the running game with some play action, of course, Russ stepping out in the pocket, throwing down the field. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting. But I definitely agree 100%.
Well, and we watched Fangio and Pat Shurmur, who were super predictable, and then we watched Hackett, who was, the offense was pretty inept. So, this is going to be a huge difference, and I'm looking forward to it. So, thanks, Jason, for that. It's a great insight to what we hope that the Broncos will bring to the table. And I think you're right. I think it's going to be innovative. It's going to keep them guessing, and we're going to see a much more productive offense than we're used to.
Yes.
I just want to say hello to David, saying Forsyth was a steal in the 7th round. I hope you're right. I like him too. Yes. I think he's a player. I don't think he's a good, tester that went out and wowed anybody, but on the field is where it counts. And I think you're right. I think he is a steal. I just think he's going to take a little time to see the field. So I hope so too. Tom Nalen got his shirt on. He was a late round pick that really turned out. So I'm hoping that Forsyth does as well. And we need to see a nice centerpiece on that offensive line that they spent so much money to go out and fix and then left the centerpiece alone. So let's hope that you're right, David. I appreciate that. Ron, I don't know about you, but I think we should start winding down the show and head off into the night, so to speak.
Yes, definitely. I'm looking through the chat. So we can head off. So we thank you guys for joining us on this Saturday night. We appreciate you. Thank you to all of our superstars that came in here to support us. We appreciate you as always. And as Dylan mentioned at the beginning of the chat, please make sure you hit that like button, share on all platforms, and subscribe to all of the channels if you haven't already. It really helps us, the podcast, to bring in new listeners and such. Also, we're on Twitter, so please follow my co-host here, Thomas Hall NFL, and follow me as well at Ron White NFL. And as you guys tag us, we definitely respond to comments and all the latest and greatest Broncos news that's out there. So we really appreciate you guys. Thomas, any last words?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for the support that you guys gave us tonight. And thank you for bearing with me while I'm trying to do these pods while traveling, so not the greatest locations. Definitely wearing my Broncos hat out here in Patriots country. So everybody, I really appreciate the support. We definitely do here at Mile High Huddle. And thanks for joining. Thanks for the great conversation. And with that, I'll just say thank you and go Broncos.
Go Broncos.